But
I know it's like the little countdown and the preparing to do the thing. And so here we are. Stacy and I are like this beautiful human, this incredible man that I've been wanting to chat with for a while now. We kind of connected over Messenger through a mutual friend of ours and went, oh my God, you're doing amazing shit mutually. I'll speak for myself in that regard, but and then it kind of, we sort of put some seeds in and then never followed up on them. And then I saw a video that you put up a few days ago, right? Like last week. And as I was just putting up, before I introduce you, Stacy, I was just looking. It was like and I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote. I'm excited to go live in 5 minutes with the awesome Stacy Taylor to chat about. And I was thinking, man, I could put so many things here, right? I just grabbed a few things, relationships, parenting, because that's where it all starts, right? Men, isolation, codependency, and a whole lot more. Right, empowerment, just living in a way that we were just talking about before we jumped on, where we're not sinking, right, in life, where we have tools to be able to swim, swim this journey and hold ourselves powerfully. So there's a lot that we can talk about, um, and off the back of this video that I saw, and it was called The Lone Wolf. So immediately I went bing, right? Because that's so my jam. It's so what I love to talk about in relation to doing this thing called life all on our own. And when you think about what drives that and how we end up doing that, we're all human and we're all like humaning alongside one another, yet we all, so many of us feel like we don't belong and we're all trying to do it on our own. So when I saw that video, I was just like, right, I want to chat and let's do it now. And I said, let's do it this week. And that was last week. And then we had to wait a week before we actually did it. So
yeah.
we've been champing at the bit to get on. I want to introduce the incredible Stacy Taylor, and I want to spend the next however long we do chatting about all these wonderful things that have been a big part of our individual worlds, and let's bring them together and chat. So welcome.
Oh, thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, I've been looking forward to talking to you too. And yeah, just connecting on like-minded things and just bringing, another level of wisdom or understanding to the world and people out there that are looking for the answers because you can feel it in the world right now. Like we're in a time of great change and all of the things that they told us worked don't work and we're starting to have that revelation, so we need to have people that are walking the journey that can just share some wisdom back. And I always love these conversations because I always learn so much talking to people like yourself, so thanks for having me on. Thanks for
Yeah,
making the time.
you are so welcome. I'm just gonna write notes as you're talking because it always just grab a little topic, great change. I mean, when you say the things that were working before are no longer working, right? We are living in a completely different reality nowadays. The world has completely changed, and a big part of the work that I do, a big focus of the work that I do is on parenting, because the way that our parents did it informs the way that we do it now, right? We're a product of our conditioning. There's no way around it, right? It's awareness that is available to us now, and even more so these days with the advances in technology and just all of the different ways of being in the world. The way that our parents did it, it's no longer relevant. And one of the things that I always hear myself saying is, we want to learn how to be able to relate powerfully to ourselves, other people, the world, life itself, from a place that's grounded in the present, not from the world that we've come from, right? And the way
That,
that parents did it is the world that we came from.
yeah. And that's the big challenge, right? Because if like you would have known, like until you know you don't know, and until you realize you've just become the product of your environment and you've got all these patterns that are playing out unconsciously, all these codependent needs, all this trauma, all this stuff that you haven't processed. But then you look at our modern world and you see how quickly it's evolving. Like even the last 10 years for us is, for me as a parent, the evolution in the last 10 years. So we're now being bombarded from every single angle, and we're being overwhelmed with information. We're being absorbed into social media. We're the most connected yet most disconnected we've ever been. And we're putting on all the show on the front end and drowning it in silence. And I think this is really, where we're at right now is we actually need to find people that we can have true connections with, that we can start to share the truth of, the absolute raw, honest truth of, fuck, I'm struggling right now as a man, or I'm struggling right now as a woman. I'm struggling to be a parent and I don't know how to navigate the space. And this is what's going on. And, that quote, the truth will set you free. In a world of smoke and mirrors and illusion right now, the truth and authenticity is true social currency. It's true freedom, because once you start to expose yourself, there's nothing to hide from. And when there's nothing to hide from, you can step into freedom, you can grow, you can expand, you can start to step into love. And that's why I love talking to people like you and sharing the message of your work, the work that I do, and just to let people know it's okay not to have your shit together, and it's okay to say that you don't. And I work a lot with men, and even this morning I've had 3 messages from women. Oh, I've shared your work with my husband. We're not together anymore, but he probably won't reach out. And I'm like, we've got to get past this lone wolf mentality, this this boy psychology, that we're still afraid of being hurt, we're still afraid of being made fun of or exposed, or at a primal level we're afraid of being cast out of the tribe if we bring to the table our truth. And so this is why I'm championing this cause, is that it's time for men to lead, it's time for men to heal, so that our women can feel safe, that our children can feel safe, and these generational curses don't go down to the next generation. And I think the key to parenting as a man is to heal yourself. Like what I see in the world right now is men are trying to heal their children and champion their children into being everything that they haven't been, and they're latching on to their partners like the way they want a mother figure in their life, and you can't do that. You've got to individuate as a man from your wife, from your children, from the mother and father wounds, and step into your power.
Mm. Oh, so much there. The first thing that I wrote down as you were talking was how asleep I was in my reality, in my world, in my relationship to myself, to everything, right? To my beliefs, to what was going on inside me. And there were so many tangents that I could grasp onto with what you just shared. But having to have it all together, and having to have all the answers, and having to have this front of getting it right, and the fear of failure that drives that, and all of that, which completely blocks that truth that you're talking about, right? And that vulnerability of like, shit, man, this is hard, and I'm struggling here. I'm really challenged. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I mean, man, that line has been an absolute game changer for me, so transformative, because it goes completely against this expectation that we've got to know what we're doing, right? I'm a parent. I've got to know what I'm doing as a parent. I like mentor, coach parents. That means I've really got to know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
pressure's on.
it's the best thing ever that I've found with that vulnerability, that I don't know what I'm doing here, And I remember saying to my 2 boys at one point, this was reasonably early on in my parenting journey, where I said, hey guys, I got news for you. Before you guys came along, I wasn't a parent, right?
Mm.
So I'm just like making this up. I'm just, how about and it's the first time you've been a kid, it's the first time you've been a boy, how about we just like make this up together, and we'll work, we'll work it out together. And that was, I could see the relief in their eyes, right? That, oh, wow, I don't have to get it right either too, and And that's the truth, right? The vulnerability in that. And when you said, the truth will set you free, I use that line a lot, but I actually add a little bit to the end of it. The truth will set you free, but it'll bitch slap you on the way through,
Oh,
right?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's
And
that's
that,
that's so powerful. I'm gonna steal that.
yeah, man, steal it away. Like my
Yeah.
coach offered it to me, and this is the way it works, right? We all learn from each other and grow, but it's the truth, right? Because sometimes we don't want to hear what's actually going on. And for me as a parent, for me in relationships, for me to honor my own truth and be vulnerable where I don't know what I'm doing, where I can actually be in that place of taking self-responsibility and ownership, right?
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest key, even, like even for me, like working with men, right? Is there's a part of them that wants to evolve into, I believe it's every man, every woman, we want to evolve into the highest version of ourselves. And we've experienced that version of ourselves maybe when we fall in love in a relationship in the early stages, and that mature masculine comes out, or the mature feminine, and there's this flow and you're conquering and moving mountains. But that's that temporary, the temporary wounds that have been temporarily healed, well, not healed, but just filled for a moment in time, that allows you to see what wholeness looks and feels like. That's what I believe this is that, God, the universal source, it's always going to seek to heal the most wounded aspect of itself. And right now, that's human beings. So for us to be able to see what's possible, we have to actually be able to be in that for a moment in time to go, wow, this is how great life can be when I'm in my full power. But because it's that external, it's going to be pulled away from us for us to go and do the internal work to create that in ourselves and then create that in our reality, whether that's our marriage, our relationship, us as parents, our business, our finances, our health. But we've never been taught this, right? So we miss the mark. So when that relationship pulls apart, especially with men, we're trying to get it back. The woman's trying to get him to be the man he was before it felt, and it's just this push and pull. And then a lot of us will break off. I see a lot of women breaking off and actually starting to do the work. A lot of men break off and then they get motivated, which means there's a motive. They're trying to get back in shape. They're trying to get a new woman. They're all in with their kids. They're all in with their finances. But you actually haven't healed the wound. So you've just created the cycle again. And that cycle will come back twice as fast as it did every time that you missed the mark. I've noticed, like, if I don't catch it here, it comes back twice as fast. And this is why I say to men, like, man, just, yep, you'll get the truth is going to set you free. And like you said, it's going to bitch slap you and beat you up on the way. But life's already kicking the shit out of you anyway. Wouldn't you rather just step in, face the man in the mirror, and start to peel back all the layers, all the masks, all the conditioning, all the fear, and start to reveal your true self to the world? Because when I got this concept that as a man, the masculine's meant to lead, it's meant to protect, it's meant to provide. And generally in the world right now, that's not happening, and it hasn't been happening for a long time. But once I understood that the feminine, the woman in my life, she's going to absorb my frequency that's being transmitted from my nervous system. My children are also going to do the same. So if I'm putting on the show that, man, my life's good, my business is good, my marriage is good, but internally I'm suffering, that is actually the frequency that I'm giving to my children. And this is why I say to men, the greatest source of pain that you've known, you're actually giving it to your wife first through sexual exchange and being in her presence. She's going to mirror it back to you, and you're not going to like it because it's your trigger, but you're also giving it to your children. And once I realized it's not about me anymore, that if I truly love my children, if I truly love my wife, fuck, I'm going to heal the greatest source of pain. So I get it out of my lineage, so I don't give it to my children, and they don't have to go through what I went through, what my parents went through, my grandparents. So if men can understand that this isn't cowardly, this isn't whatever you want to look at it. This is actually true courage. This is true love that when you go, right, I'm not right and I'm going to do something about it, that's where you shift everything for everyone that you love.
Mm, mm. That piece right there, I mean, one of the premises that I use so often in my work, the energy you bring is everything, right? It's everything. And as you say, as women being tuned into that emotional frequency, and children who are even more tuned in to that frequency, especially between the ages of 0 to 7, right? They are literally absorbing everything in their environment. And that old sort of do as I say, not do as I do, but do as I say, but internally. And what's coming for me is the mask, right? The everything's fine mask, or everything's great mask, and internally it's like the duck under the water, right? Where the duck's swimming and all looks great, and then underneath they're like, "Rah!" freaking out. And that's what it is, and that's what we're bringing. um, and there's so much there to bring it back to ourselves of, I'm responsible for this, and I'm providing a reference point to my children here. And is that what I want to do? Is that the energy that I want to that I want to be bringing into my relationships? um, and that we're a product of our conditioning. And as soon as we realize that, then it's like, man, the beating ourselves up, because I guess what was coming for me as you were talking, I'm just going to write a note so I definitely go back to it, is the the belief that there's something wrong with us, right? That we're somehow broken, that we need fixing, that we need healing, that that we're dented, that we're broken, and that we're not, right? That the way we see ourselves is definitely. And yes, we all have wounds, right? There is not one person, not one man, not one woman, and everything else in between. Let's not stand on anybody's toes. That came out of their childhood without wounds, right? Without stuff that happened. And when we can understand why that happens, and that our relationships are just there for us to have the opportunity to be able to move past them, move past those wounds, like powerfully, right? The hero's journey, to go the full hero's journey, not just stay on one side of it and loop, right? To actually go the full journey. And that there's alchemy involved in there, right? There's and to be able to, because going back into something else I wrote down of what you said, the patterns, right? When I looked at my relationships and I was like, oh my God, I've had 3 relationships with essentially a different version of the same guy, right? And they all ended the same way, the same pattern. And because I was in a place of you, it's your fault, you need to change, you're the problem, without finally going like this, how
Yeah.
they 3 fingers pointing back, without finally going, hey, you know what? I'm the common denominator in this story. And if I don't do something about it, then another man's going to come into my life attracted by the wound, right? Because trauma, that's what trauma bonding is, right? Oh, you're nice. Oh, you're nice. Which is essentially saying, oh, you have the same wound I do. Oh, that, and then, right. But the vulnerability piece is what I wanted to pick up on, because I remember being at a festival, and it was quite a number of years ago. My oldest boy was 7, and he remembers being teased by the kids for crying, right? Oh, stop crying, boys don't cry, all of that conditioning. And I remember this beautiful Māori healer man coming up to him, and he said, don't you ever stop crying, right? And he sort of took him by the wrist, and he said, you don't know how much strength it takes to allow the flow,
Mm.
to not stop it, right? To not put that stoicness, that got to be tough, got to wear the mask, got to have the armor on, to actually be vulnerable in front of other people, right?
Yeah. I'm,
Huge.
I'm so big on that, especially with young boys, with my sons. like my sons are complete savages out in the world with what they do, but they'll, when they were younger, they something come up, they'd just cry and let it go. And within 5 minutes, it was processed and let go. And this is that conditioning, that showing emotions, not even vulnerability, but showing emotions as men and even as women now, right? That showing emotions are weak. But what is truly weak is having a fear around showing emotions. I did a podcast just recently with Jerry, and in that podcast, we went from laughing to tears of joy to tears of sadness back to laughing. And it was one of the most incredible conversations because there was no fear. I don't care what people think about me showing emotions. It means my heart's open as a man and that I can feel and I can love and I can let the tears of joy. But because I'm so free with it and I'm not trying to push something now down, it's not overflowing or exploding in a negative way, whether that's I'm over emotional, I'm emotionally shut off, I'm aggressive, whatever, because I'm not afraid of my emotions now. And I know that they're a strength, not a weakness. And this is something we need to be modeling to young boys, not telling them to be it. This is why I say, as a man, as you start to heal your wounds and you're emotionally stable, safe, and strong, if you cry because you lost a loved one and your boys see that emotions are fine, but they're not over emotional, you're not exploding, you're not irrational, they start to just become that, oh, it's okay for me to cry, it's okay for me to laugh, it's okay for me to express anger in a healthy way. And we don't start pushing it down so that, like us, as we get, older, now we've got to process all this shit that we never actually faced and dealt with and we didn't even know was there, that they're so freeing in being able to just be emotionally expressive and let go of what doesn't serve you, because it's like the wind blowing and the sun shining. It's a natural state of being. If it wasn't meant to happen, we wouldn't be able to do it. If boys weren't meant to cry, they wouldn't be able to cry. If they weren't meant to be angry, they wouldn't be able to get angry. I remember this teacher pulling my son up one day because he was angry at something that someone had done. And I said to her, anger's a natural emotion. Why is he angry? Why don't you give him a space to naturally express it? When we got home, we went out for a run. He punched the boxing bag, he let it out, and he's like, oh, that feels so good. But if we didn't give him the space, now anger's wrong. So now I'm going to suppress that anger and I'm now going to turn that anger on myself because it's not safe for me to show it in the world. And this is what we have to work through as men, is because from a very young age, we were conditioned not to show weakness, not to show emotions. And if you did, it usually equaled some kind of pain. And now you've associated that that's your programming. Showing emotions is weak. So now I won't show it. So now I've got to close down my heart and suppress all of that. And that becomes too heavy a burden to carry.
Yeah. And how much energy it takes to actually do that, right? And we wonder why people are fatigued, right? They're overwhelmed, they have no energy, right? Just losing the kind of aliveness, right? For life, right? The juice for life. But I mean, this is such a huge topic, and it's something that's really close to my heart because when I started doing work with my body, right? Not just my head, not just my thoughts, but my emotion and the energy, right? Energy and motion, the energy that was in my body when I get upset, when I get triggered, when something pisses me off, right? And what I do with that, because as you say, we're conditioned from the moment we're born, even from when we're conceived, because in the mother's womb, the baby is absorbing her physical, emotional, mental response to whatever's happening in her environment. So it happens then, and then throughout childhood, shut down, because as soon as we start kicking off as kids, it starts triggering the parent who was also shut down as a kid and takes them straight back to there, right? So it's this vicious cycle of shutdown, of suppression, and decades. When I think about it like that, we had decades of trapped emotion, right? That's in our bodies, and we wonder why there's so much disease. We wonder why there's so much pain in our bodies. and it's become so normal to just live that way, right? To be in pain and to have dis-ease that leads to disease. And once I started moving, right, and moving, giving it space, which is exactly what you're saying, right? Giving it space to actually move out of the body, not from a place of judgment, because I know that didn't help me. And I know that when I first started working somatically, right, with my body rather than just my head, it was still coming out with a bit of judgment. Right, I got to get it out. This is bad, right? This is bad emotion, and how moving into a different place of defining emotion where it's just emotion, right? It's just emotion. There's lower density emotion, there's higher density, lighter emotion, and it's just emotion. And when we can stop judging it for a start and allowing it to be there, whoa, I've got tears behind my eyes. Am I going to get out of their way and let them flow? Or, I've just been speaking to my mom and she just said something about my picture online, and why haven't I got my hair back? Or, whatever her ways of expressing love are that I receive as criticism. And, Mom, actually, I'm just going to put my phone down and do 20 star jumps just to move that energy through. And then I'm going to be able to come back and talk to you, right? It's like all of these things around how do we get out of the way of emotions so that it's not impacting us, which is what you see, it starts to damage us from the inside, or it's damaging our relationships, right? Because we're chucking it out at other people. So
Yeah,
huge
that's,
yeah.
this is one of the things, right? Like with men is, men have twice as dense a nervous system as women. So they can store a heck of a lot more over their life of energy, right? And so what happens is the deterioration of the quality of their life over time is so gradual that they adjust to it as they're going along, that by the time they get into maybe their 30s, their 40s, they've got such into a deep hole that they don't know they're in, till one day something snaps in their life and they know they're in it. And then there's this overwhelming amount of emotion that wants to come up, which is not safe. Like the ego of a man doesn't want him to show emotion because that's weakness. So then, they're pointing the finger out at the wife, the world, the government, whatever it is. Like when men come to work with me, often I'll just share a little joke with them, just to break the ice. And I'm like, bro, drop the bag of rocks. And they're like, what? I don't have a bag of rocks. And I'm just like, oh yeah, just have a little joke and we have a laugh. And then after the first session, they're like, fuck, I got a big bag of rocks, eh? And I'm like, and that's really the analogy that I use with men, is that when we're born as boys, it's like life gives us this invisible backpack. And we just start loading it up with rocks, which is all the emotions, the pain, the conditioning, the fears, the traumas. But no one taught us how to unload the bag. When we're young, fit, and vibrant, and we're falling in love with women, and we don't know we've got it on. And then one day it's like, holy heck, I've got this bag on and I don't know what to do with it. I'm overwhelmed by it. I'm scared with it. So men just grit down on their mouthpiece and keep going. And this drives them deeper and deeper into the hole because the patterns are playing out. They're storing more. And I always say, like, if you look at the world right now, women are doing the work because they're not afraid so much of their emotions, right? They're emotional beings. Women are emotional beings. Men want to be empty. They want to stand out there like that mountain and just be free. But to do that as a man, you've actually got to go back, process that stuff that's stored in your nervous system. And trust me, you can store a lot. And then you've got to start to learn to release that and also bring awareness to the programming of the that's causing the patterns. Because whatever you went through, especially in that first 7 years, you've just recreated it as an adult. You've formed the same relationship you had with mom or dad, now with your wife or your husband, and you just don't know it because it's so familiar to you that you can't see it. And when I seen this for the first time, I was like, no way, shit, what the? Then when I started to realize that, but this is a gift because life is a mirror, it's not a window. Everything was being mirrored for me to see. I just didn't want to see it. And this is the thing. Once you see one thing, you'll attest to this, Jacqueline. Once you see one thing, you can never unsee it. And once you see one thing, the journey starts. And this is the resistance to the journey because, like once you're exposed, you can never be unexposed. And then you've got to go into the bitch slap territory. The truth will set you free. And then you're going to get mauled and go through the journey because you have to bring all the unconscious to the conscious
Yep.
and step into responsibility. And that's a tough ask, for people out there in the world because, 20, 30, 40 years of being a certain way. And now you're going to smash that reality with a sledgehammer. You're going to feel pretty empty and alone for a little bit there because you've now got to work through who am I without all of this? Who do I truly want to be? How do I become that? How do I step into my power? And so, yeah, this is why, but I know with where we're at in the world right now, there's no other way.
No.
Like I'm talking to people and the suffering and the mental health and the suicide and the marriage breakups and the addictions and the vices. It's out of control. And like we said at the beginning, everything they told us would work. If it worked, we'd be free right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to the traditional counselor, no disrespect to that, but if you're going to the traditional systems and you haven't actually gone to people that are going through what you're going through and have figured out a way through it, you're never going to find freedom because the ego always looks for the easy way because it doesn't want to be exposed. It doesn't want you to change. It wants you to stay the same because it doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your goals. It cares about survival.
Yep.
It cares about you surviving. And truth be told, most of us learned that survival is pain. And so we actually love being in pain more than we do love being in freedom.
Yeah, yeah. The path of least resistance, right? It's like the well-worn path to reconfirming every belief that you created when you were a kid. And and we do it. And we do it. And you're right, you can't go back to holding hands, right? As soon as the light has been shone on, it's like, you've just taken the red pill. Keanu's not here, but you've taken the red pill, and are you going to go back into the matrix? And how attached, because this is what I'm hearing from what you're saying, how attached we become to our identity, how attached we become to our ways of doing things, how attached we become to the pain, right? How the payoff that we get of reconfirming our beliefs. Well, this is familiar. This is a familiar pattern. This is a familiar person, and I mean, people laugh just like you did when they realized that, their attraction patterns take them into relationship with their mother, and now they're having sex with them, right? It's like, what? But this is what it is because we're given another opportunity to be able to work past those wounds, to move past the wounding that happened in that primary relationship, and how attached we become to that pain because we're so conditioned to move away from, we're attached to the pain, but we don't want to do what's actually good for us, right? We don't want it. We're more attached to the pain than actually doing what is good for us. And this has been such a huge part of my own journey with everything that you said: mental health, addiction. I was institutionalized for severe postnatal depression. I've been down that path. I've walked through the fucking fire, right? And you have to work through the fire to come back and be in service and to be authentic, right? And this is the alchemy that I know that you are very much aware of, that we don't make gold from gold, right? We have to have the raw material. When we're wounded as children, there's a reason why we're wounded, right? We're here to do something. We're here to serve. We have a purpose in the world. And when I look at my childhood and everything that I went through, everything that I navigated, there's no question why I'm here doing what I'm doing, right? Absolutely no question. And I needed to be able to change the relationship to what had happened to me, to no longer be a victim to it. And let's face it, we're coming out of, which makes my heart sing. I know that you spoke into the realities of the world, and I did a half an hour live yesterday while I was walking about addiction, because It's showing in my world. I'm starting to pull together a program which is about seeing addiction in a very different way,
Mm.
right? A way where we're no longer a victim to our addictions, where we're at the mercy of them, where we're looking over our shoulder every single moment of every single day because it's going to get us, right? We're going to fall off the wagon. We're going to want to drink again. We're going to want to take drugs again. We're going to want to do whatever it is that is our vice and our addiction again, because we don't feel like we have the power, right? The addiction has the power. And so I did a live around that. But what really makes my heart sing is that there is a very new level of consciousness arriving. And to be able to be in our power, to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to sit in an observer standpoint and actually see what's going on in our own in our own reality, and our relationships with other people. Um, and that gets me excited.
Oh, me too. Me too. Like I shared this in my live or my video this morning, people don't understand. We have to level up our consciousness because our environment has changed so dramatically. Our ego has evolved because there's no primal threats anymore, yet we have hundreds of years of evolution of looking for a primal threat, a tiger, a lion, a dinosaur, an external threat. But now we live in these comfortable homes where there's not these, for 99% of the population, there's no longer these threats. So the ego's sitting there going, well, what do I do now? I've got to do something. So now it's looking for the threat in your home. Now it's mum, now it's dad, it's a school teacher, it's someone who looked after you and hurt you.
Mm.
But what happens is that threat, like a tiger that, I shared this morning, if you grew up in the Sahara or you grew up where tigers were in the jungle, your entire life you would see tigers and you would have a natural response to those tigers because they're in your environment and they would be there and they would have been there for your ancestors. But what happens now is we grow up in these environments where we go through experiences that the ego latches onto. But as we become teenagers into adults, that threat's not actually there anymore, like a tiger. But what it does, what the ego does through our frequency is it keeps collapsing it in space and time to save us from it. And we just loop like this, loop, loop, three relationships, same person effectively, because it just collapsed into space and time, the frequency of your fear to protect you from it and say, see, I saved you again. And you're in the corner, like in pain and misery, saying, am I ever going to find a good man? And all these things. But the reason being is the reason we're seeing so much pain in the world right now is because the evolution for us to survive as human beings, we have to evolve our consciousness, and that's going to be painful. We're going to have to go through the pain. Someone said to me the other day, it's sad. And I said, yeah, if you look at it from that point of view, but that pain is the actual catalyst for your awakening. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I never wanted to change when my life was good. It wasn't until my wife left me, my health was failing, my business was collapsing, my finances were a wreck. And I remember sitting in my sunroom going, fuck her, fuck the world. I'm just going to get it all back. I'll go create a new business. I'll find a new woman. I'll do all this, that. And I remember it vividly. I just remember this voice saying, stop, there's something you can't see. And I was like, hey. But it was just enough. It created enough space for me to go, far out. This is the sixth or seventh time you've done this kind of stuff. Like, oh, the definition of insanity and
Yeah.
oh, the common theme's always you. Like, you're always blaming, but the common theme's always me. And once I seen it, I couldn't unsee it. And then I was like, 3 years ago, Jacqueline, I didn't know anything about trauma. I
Mm.
didn't know anything about healing, spirituality. I knew nothing about it, not one thing. And I go to one session and boom, my whole reality's like shattered with a sledgehammer. And now I'm like, okay, that's the point of no return. But, the longer you leave it, the longer you're going to suffer. And I always say, people say to me all the time, I'm not ready. Well, you're already in pain and suffering already. Wouldn't you rather be in control of it? Wouldn't you rather be working through it? Because you'll never be ready. That you'll never be ready to face what you need to face This is why it's called the hero's journey, the alchemist. You've got to go through pain. I said to someone the other day, imagine watching a movie where they just won all the time and there was no adversity. You wouldn't want to watch the movie. Watch every single movie and you'll see the team, the person, the organization, the individual went through some kind of struggle
Mm.
that they had to face themselves, overcome to become the champion or to create whatever it is. This is the analogy of our life, but we just don't want to do it. We want to stay in the pain and suffering, pretending that we're winning. And I always say to people, you can lie to me, you can lie to the world, but don't lie to yourself. You know behind closed doors that you're suffering. You know you're not abundant. You know your marriage is a mess. You know your health is a mess. And like you said before, if people could just understand that those are the symptoms, those are the symptoms of unresolved things from your past, but the world is telling you that's the problem and here's the pill to fix it. Throw you in this institution, you have this disorder, you have that. The human body and being is so intelligent. Those are the warning symptoms, but no one taught you to go look under the hood. And if you can just start to see that, that anxiety, that depression, that postnatal, whatever it is, there's a reason this is here. It's an intelligent response to what the psyche is perceiving. Now, what is the psyche perceiving?
Yeah. And, medication, um, masking the symptoms, putting the band-aids over. It's one thing, even in my lack of awareness and my asleepness, because I definitely was asleep back then, I took the drugs, right? And it's like, I don't knock antidepressants, I don't knock the drugs. Like, I needed them at that point. And I also did whatever it took to understand why I needed them in the first place, right? And that for me is the difference. It's like I wanted to know why I was the way that I was. And there was so much in what you said, and that sent me on my journey, right? Of like, why did this happen? Why am I, behaving this way? Why are my relationships imploding? And you're so right. It's so often that people need to get to the bottom of the hole before they will actually do anything, right? And it's one thing that I've noticed, and I was talking about men. It was a cycle, and it's definitely not isolated only to men, but it's much harder to ask for help when you're feeling like shit, right? It's even
Yeah.
harder when you're feeling good because it's like, well, now I feel good. Now I'm okay now, right? Everything's okay. I don't need to ask for help, so they won't do it then. But then, and this has definitely been my journey. Then we slip back into the hole again because the downward spiral is coming because we haven't addressed why we're there in the first place. And then we're not going to ask for help when we're in the shit, right? So this vicious cycle starts to happen. And one of the things that, has really dawned on me, it's another sort of encapsulation of like, the truth will set you free, but it'll bitch slap you on the way through. Pain is inherent in life. And for me, when I look back, my understanding was that if I'm in pain, if there is pain, if I'm experiencing pain, then I'm doing something wrong, right? I'm wrong, I'm bad, there's something wrong with me, I'm not getting it. Life, there is pain in life, right? 100%. People die, people get sick, natural disasters, all of it. There is pain in life because we're not robots, right? We're human. We've come here to have this human journey in these vehicles, and suffering is optional, right? The suffering is optional. But if you go through life thinking I shouldn't be in pain, there should never be any pain, then you're going to suffer, right? And I suffered hugely because of exactly that. And now that I'm okay with the pain, now okay, wow, right? I'm in a really low patch, right? I've taken a nosedive, right? I'm literally swimming around in it all at the moment. And I'm not judging it. I'm not making it bad. I'm not making it wrong. I don't make anything that I'm experiencing bad or wrong, which means that I flow through it, right? And I don't suffer.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, this is one of the things, like you'll hear it in the world of men's, Like you don't have to do it alone. But I'm telling you right now, as a man, there's going to be things that you're going to have to go through with your family, with your business, with your marriage, that you're going to actually have to do it alone. No one's going to be able to help you. But the key is, can you come out the other side and have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the growth to offload that so you can be strong again, so you can let it go. Like going to the gym, you can come out the other side, you can go, right, now I need to let that go and move into my power. And like you said, pain is a part of life. I always say adversity introduces a man to himself. And I just hosted a men's retreat where I had a couple of guys that had been to every rehab center on the planet, like 16 rehab centers in 16 years. And the other day, two of them are 25 days sober for the first time in their life. Well, we didn't do what every other rehab did, because I knew that sitting around talking about their shit wasn't going to help them solve it. And we went into some deep breathwork journeys and reflection, and then we took them on a Masogi, which was a 9-hour hike through some of the roughest country in New Zealand, and it broke down their mind. And then they had to get in the cold water. And this is what the other thing that men need to understand is, you need to be putting yourself in the fire, because if you're not, this is going to get out of control, because we're designed to hunt, to protect, to provide, to build and create. And so we need to be putting ourselves in the fire. And this is why I love men's coaching too, because you need men to call you out. So many men are hiding behind their wives. Like I've got guys in an accountability group that keep running to their wives. And the other day they said, "Oh, I didn't get this done. It was 9 o'clock at night." And I said, "Get it fucking done."
Mhm.
Oh, but I said, "I don't care. You said you made a commitment to me, not even to me, you made a commitment to your word. And if you don't complete this today, you've broken your word, and now you'll break yourself off in every area of their life." So they had to get up off the couch during movie time with their family and go get it done. And they felt sorry for themselves. And usually they'd get away with it, which would then degrade their relationship. It would degrade themselves. And eventually now they're running to their wife, and now their wife's their mother,
Yeah.
because they're not actually doing what they're saying. And the next day he goes, "Oh, by 7 a.m., he had done everything he said he needed to do, because he didn't want to go through that again." And this is what I mean on this journey. Like healing is compassion, but for men too, it's also accountability. I'm going to hold you to the word that you said and the energy that you said it when you were in the high, until you complete it. And then that becomes your normal state of being in life. And like you said, pain is going to be a part of life, trust me.
Yeah.
And when you reach the low, the illusion is that you can escape the pain through an external whatever it is. Because I see this all the time with men: marriage breakup, business failure, the whole lot. Now they want to spend time with their kids. "I'd die for my kids." No, you're not. You're sucking the love out of them to keep you going, that you can't create within yourself. And, like when you go into that low, you're probably, you're not going to have resources often. You may not have the money available. You may not have the time. But that's actually the trap, because you have to choose yourself and actually find a way. I know on my journey, when it all fell apart, I didn't have all the resources, but I said, I just knew, this part of me knew, if I work on me, that will change. And I would just find a way. I would do some extra hours. I'd sell something. I'm like, "Flip, just work on me, create the best version of me," because then that will be mirrored back to me externally. And so that's the thing that you have to realize right now, is you're not going to get yourself out of this hole, coming back to that lone wolf, on your own. That's why you need to reach out, like to people like Jacqueline, that are doing the work, that are growing, that are a few steps ahead of you on your journey, that can help you to level up, change, and really just take back your power. Take
Mhm.
back your power in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Which exists internally, right? I mean, what I got from what you were saying, it's an inside job, right? It's an inside job. And the problem is we're conditioned again from the moment we're conceived to look outside of ourselves for the answers, right? For what to do, for how to do it, for what to wear, how to wear it, what to say, how to be, how to act, all of it, right? And the events of the last few years have really shown that. It really shone a light on that we're just looking outside of ourselves and giving our power away, right? And also in our relationships. And you mentioned survival, you mentioned not belonging, right? These big beliefs that drive us in our lives, in our relationships, in connection with ourselves. But when I get down, and I've been looking at this, what are these core messages, right, of what it is that I'm doing here, what it is that you're doing here. And one of them that really is so vital to understand, that when we are coming from this place of survival, which is, our primal nature, no, we're not out in the wild anymore, but that exists in us, right? That fear exists in us. And that need to belong, that need to love, that need to be in the tribe, be in the, in the pack, right? The lone wolf, be in the pack. It's so incredibly ingrained and so deep that it will drive our behavior. And our behavior becomes about this external seeking, right? Searching, validation. I need approval. I need recognition. I need all of this stuff from outside of myself. And the way that completely screws up our relationships, right? And one of the things that we'd sort of mentioned over our little message exchanges was the dependency in our relationships because of exactly that piece, right? We need each other, and when the relationships break down, the devastation that happens, right? And especially because you work with men, I also work with a lot of men, how devastating that can be when the relationships break down, because if the partner is the only person that man is getting their needs met through, because we're raised to get our needs met from outside of ourselves, we're not taught how to resource ourselves and actually meet those needs for ourselves and bring the whole person to our relationship rather than, the half a person. And it's so in our conditioning, right? I need you to complete me. You're my better half. All
Yeah.
of this shit, right? That just doesn't help the dependency, which is our primary mode of relating, right? Codependency.
Yeah.
And it's
This is
killing the
this is
connection.
what I shared with you. Like, as men, we've never individuated from our mother.
Yeah.
That's the trap. We've never actually individuated into our own unique being. We're still dependent on the mother energy, whatever the wound is. This is why I said, like in a lot of my videos, the feminine is either the liberator or the trap for a man, because he's going to be attracted to her because there's a frequency of of the mother. So he's going to go there to try and fill the need, which initially it will. Then it breaks apart. Then he's trying to get it back. But what's being mirrored to him is what he needs to see to heal. And if he heals that, she'll naturally heal, move into the feminine, and then the relationship's beautiful because now you're two individuated souls that are co-creating or coexisting together. But this is the trap, because as soon as a man breaks in a relationship, he either tries to cling on to it rather than doing the work, evolving and transforming into the man that he needs to be, because this is why the pain's in his life. Oh, pain, pain, pain. If I was sitting there stabbing you with a knife in the arm, you'd tell me to stop and do something about it. But emotional pain, because we can't see it, we keep stabbing ourselves in the arm every day and going, oh, my life's so painful. And then you want to tell everyone how painful it is, but you don't want to do anything about it. And, like this, the message is there now. When I looked up, there was no one was talking about this to me, and well, I didn't see anyone talking about it. Not men that I'm like, man, that's the kind of guy, man, like I can relate to that guy, and I was like, oh man, I'm not really keen on going to the ecstatic dance, all the, I don't want to say too much, but to that's kind of
Woo
scary to
woo.
me. I don't want to go
Woo
there, the
stuff.
woo woo, but now I'm like, you can go hunting, you can do jiu-jitsu, you can be an absolute savage, fishing, whatever it is, but become soulful. Become as soulful as you are savage. That man that would literally die for his family, but when he's home with his wife and his children, he's so soulful. A lot of the talk out there is, oh, he's so feminine. I don't quite buy into that. I think a man who truly embodies his masculine will bring in the feminine aspect through his woman, and then the soulfulness of him will come through to her, and that's what actually brings the aliveness to the relationship, right? And that's another thing, there's a lot of talk that men are in their feminine when they're wounded. No, they're not. They're actually in their wounded boy psychology. And you're now their mother, you're now the mother to the wounded boy. And so there's a lot of, I call it spiritual fuckery out there. And you have to use discernment around, what is it that actually resonates, and is it getting me results? And am I able to actually see tangible or feel tangible energy for me to move forward? And this is why I love what you're talking about. You're just speaking real. Like, this is what I went through. This is what I've had to reveal in myself and start to work through. And yes, I'm still working through it because I'm still a human being with lots of shit that I'm unpacking, but I'm actually here doing the work, and I can help you to move to here and to here. But you've got to choose you. And like you said, this is the biggest trap I see with men. They'll have the boat, they'll have the jet ski. If their kid needed something tomorrow, whether it was 5 grand or 50 grand, they'd find the money. But the minute it comes time for them to invest in themselves, they do not love themselves, they do not value themselves, and they will resist to invest in themselves. And until you choose yourself, your world will never get better. And I speak to this because it was me. I would have the boats, the cars, the jet ski, the houses, and I was actually broken. So God ripped it away. I just say God, the universe, just ripped it away for me to try and get it back to feel whole, but I can never find it outside of myself. As soon as I just said, oh, my world's a mirror of my internal state. Right, how can I evolve my internal state and step back into my power? Oh, all these things are coming now, but I don't need them anymore. They have no value to me other than it's a car to drive, it's a house to live in. And then that's where you step into your true power.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean it's such a beautiful piece to, perhaps somehow wrap up this conversation.
Mm.
Even though, I mean, I could sit here for hours, but we are our best investment, and the investment in the connection with ourselves is the first and foremost, right? I know, and just it's an interesting way, because I've just started working with a new marketing team, and he's like, so you had two programs that went out. One was called Connection with Self, and the other one was called Connection with Others. Which one did the best? And it was like the connection with others, because I just want to sort out my relationship. But I don't want to go there, right? Don't want to actually look inside. However, the understanding that the internal informs the external, right? You sort out the internal, the external is going to naturally and organically shift and evolve as this does, right? The energy that you're bringing naturally does that. But one thing that I just wanted to speak to is the dynamic, right? Because one of the things that I see in terms of just speaking to this part about our own internal investment, what's fucking important here, right? The car, the boat, the jet ski. When I started to get really clear on this, the value of life, what's important here, the 5 deathbed regrets are all about relationships. Every single one of them. No one is there on their deathbed thinking, I wish I'd earned more money, right? It's not about that. It's about, man, I wish that I had allowed myself to do, what was true for me, relationship with self. I wish that I'd been with my friends more. I wish that I'd with children more. All of that is what is at the other end if we don't invest in our relationships, right? Our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other people, our partners, our children, and to be able to understand that it is a dynamic, right? Because there's so much finger pointing. And man, that was like my middle name. I'm telling you, I spent 40 years of my life pointing the finger outwards at whoever I could, right? And it took incredible courage, right? And vulnerability to actually turn that finger back in and say, hang on a minute, this is an internal job, and I need to do the work here. And part of that is one of the reasons why I do work with a lot of men, because I'm able to see my part in it. I'm able to see how I was enabling the relationship with my husband for him to still continue to see me as his mother. How I rescued him, how I was rescuing my boys, how I was shutting down their emotion because of the way that I was shut down, right? And we get angry at the men in the world from the way that the women are raising them, right? From the way that we're enabling them to stay in these relationships with us in that dysfunctional way. And for the men to be able to see the woman's part. And I have sat in circles where I know women's pain. I am one. I've sat in circles alongside men so that I can learn their pain, right? So that I can see them, so that I can see past the behavior in front of me to the heart that is beyond, right? The wounded heart, the hurting heart, the bleeding heart, the heart that just wants to, completely crack open. And for me, the struggle that people are having in their relationships is because they don't see each other anymore. They're not seeing the hearts that are beyond. They're not understanding the cycles of belief systems that have created the dynamics that we are both part of. Right? I hear these women saying, but I've got a narcissistic partner. So what's your part in that? Because you're allowing that behavior to continue. Right? And until we take ownership as women, I know you're talking about taking ownership and personal responsibility as men, but we have to do it as women as well. Otherwise, these dynamics are never going to shift.
Yeah. And
So,
this is the big thing. You're never gonna find the sense of safety in someone else, whether you're a man or a woman. It won't matter. You'll never find what you're looking for outside of yourself, and that's the trap. And so personal responsibility is the first step, but commitment. Like, we can all see it, we can all know it, we can all say we want to do something about it. But the difference I hear speaking to you, Jacqueline, is you just seen it and then committed to changing it, whatever it took. And so, like, it doesn't have to go on forever. You can actually start to take back your power. The relationship, everything is a relationship. Money, partners, children, everything is a mirror of your internal state. Shift your internal state, and every relationship you have in the world will change really, really quickly because it's quantum physics. Your frequency is what you will frequently see. If you just grasp that one concept, that your frequency is what you are frequently seeing, and you like it, you love it. No matter how bad it is, you love to roll in it like a pig in shit until you realize one day that, oh shit, I've been rolling in my own shit and loving it. And then once you see it, you don't want to roll in it so much anymore. But
yeah,
there's times when you'll betray yourself or self-sabotage and go back to it. But now and that's part of the evolution on the journey. So, the key to freedom is never going to be found out there in the external world. You will never find it. Good luck. That is the journey to endless suffering, pain, and sorrow.
yeah,
Just stop, put all your energy back into creating the version of you that you know is in there, and then watch the beautiful relationships, the beautiful connections. We didn't know each other, 2 or 3 months ago. Now we're having this amazing conversation, and I just go, man, my frequency's leveled up now. I'm talking to an amazing woman like this about amazing things, and it's just natural. It just comes from God, source, the universe, because now this is a mirror of the frequency. So it's been
yes,
awesome to talk to you.
beautiful. Likewise, it absolutely has. And just to round this off, the lone wolf piece. Look, we're out there in service, right, to other people because it's what we're here to do. And I know that I've got a program that is called Connection with Self. If anyone wants to start that journey here, even if you've been doing work on other parts of your life, and this was always the thing for me, if you're not rolling around in your frequency and just fucking loving it, then you come back here, right? It starts here. And I know, Stacy, you've got a coaching program that's coming up for the men, right? Because so much of what we were discussing before coming onto this conversation was around the devastation, the isolation, the lack of support that men have out there because they're not talking to each other. because they don't feel safe enough to talk to each other. And now there's men's work happening out there in the world, run by people like yourself, who are bringing these men together to let them know that they're not alone, to create these spaces where they can start to bring this vulnerability and start to feel, right? Start to allow themselves into that feeling space. So I know you've got some great work. If anybody wants to contact Stacy, you'll be able to find them through Facebook. I think you're kicking off next month. Is that right? With your
Yeah, I've got like
thing?
one-on-one coaching containers. I'm just really in the process of really getting an epic website together with a lot of great offerings for men. This has just become my natural evolution or my purpose through, I say a man's purpose is to create the man that he loves and admires and then give that man to the world. So, that's what the last few years for me have been, is just creating the man that I love and admire unbiasedly. And now that I've done that and found a blueprint to it, is now offering it to other men, and then so that they can do the same and become the greatest man that they can be, whether that might be giving it to their family or whatever it is. But yeah, just there'll be a lot of cool stuff coming, men's retreats, and just real raw, honest work. No, no bullshit.
It's the bitch slap. We're
Yeah,
offering the bitch slaps, right?
yeah.
And
That's mandatory. That's just part of the journey. So
yeah.
that's why you all resist, because you're going to get smacked up. That's just part of it. But like just it's better than being on the roller coaster getting dragged along, and you'll never escape it. At least when you step in, whether it's with myself, Jacqueline, or someone else that you feel called to, you're now stepping into the driver's seat. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be sunshine and rainbows? No. Is it going to be worth it? Fuck yes, it is.
Oh my God. I wouldn't go back for anything, right? To even if Keanu was back in the Matrix, I still wouldn't go back in there, right? And that's the honest truth. Like, I wouldn't change my journey for anything. And that's all of the stuff that happened in my early childhood, all of it, wouldn't change a thing. So, what I would love to say is, if anybody out there would love to work with either of us, please get in touch. Yeah, we are clearly very passionate about what we do, about empowering people in their relationship with themselves, their relationship with everyone, everything else. Also, I will just drop in, because we've got this new program coming. If addiction and your relationship to addiction is something that you still feel powerless over, no matter where you've come to in that journey, then I want to hear from you. I want to gather information to create this incredible program, which is called Poison to Power. Right?
Mm.
Whatever your poison is that is not serving you, and you want to get your power back around that, then yeah, I want to hear from you. We're conducting some interviews to source information to create an absolutely incredibly life-changing program, which is in a very different level of consciousness, which is now available to all of us, which is fucking awesome news. So let's wrap this up, Stacey. It has been an absolute pleasure. Would absolutely love to talk to you anytime about pretty much any topic. So if that's going to happen, we can do it on your page next time.
Definitely.
Yeah, and yeah, let's just keep chatting about all of these wonderful things that we're creating individually and maybe together sometime in the future.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, thanks for the work you're doing. And yeah, definitely keen to talk again, and just, like a parting word to the people out there. Don't sit on the sidelines. Take some kind of action. Do something today, because trust me, if you don't, you're just going to keep creating the same life. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Like, to the men out there, yeah, it's scary, but you know what? On the other side of fear is something you've never known. And, burn your life to the ground in search of the truth. And trust me, it'll be worth the fire.
Beautiful. I'll counter that with one more comment as well. It's like grabbing life with both hands, man, and just like living it, right? Grabbing it, but also to no longer give yourself a choice, which is what you're saying. And I know for me, when I was asleep and I felt like a victim to everything that was going on around me, I felt like I didn't have a choice, right? That was just my way. Then when it was revealed to me that I had another option, now there's no choice again. It's that one, right? There's no way I'm going back to that way. It's that one way. It's a one-way highway, right? Into living in a completely different way. So thanks again, Stacey.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's been a wild
Thank you.
ride. Yeah, sending you much love, much admiration, respect, yeah, for what you're doing in the world. And I will absolutely look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, big love. All right, ciao. I will end our call and we'll catch up over Messenger.
Okay, sounds good. Eh? See you later.